America, from its majestic mountains to its golden fields of grain, from its rocky coastal shores to its sun-washed canyons and deserts, it is a land of great beauty. America is also a land of quaint villages, bountiful farms, and majestic cities, all with many different kinds of people, people of different colors, and customs, and foods, and music, and ways of worship. Even so, we are all Americans, citizens of a nation with many freedoms. Those freedoms were won on the battlefield many years ago, and over hundreds of years have been protected by countless men and women, brave and strong. In fact, much of our country's history is the story of courageous people, individuals and groups who in many different ways have fought for, protected, and expanded our cherished ways of life. This is the story of one of them, Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Many years ago, in Atlanta, Georgia, a group of neighborhood children played together practically every day. They threw baseballs to one another. They raced to see who was the fastest runner. They played hide and go seek. One of the children was Martin Luther King, Jr. One day, something happened to Martin. The mother of two of his friends told him that he couldn't play with her children anymore. "Martin," she said, "I don't want you to come to our house ever again. From now on, you'll just have to stay away." As you can imagine, that made Martin very upset. When he got home, his mother could tell that something was wrong. She asked him what had happened, and when Martin told her, she gave him a big hug. Then she explained that some white people believed that they were better than black people, so they didn't want their sons or daughters to play with African American children. "But," she said, "what those people believe isn't so. Everyone who knows the truth understands that a person's skin color doesn't matter. How people behave is what really matters." But everywhere Martin went, he saw signs that kept him from going where the white children could go. He couldn't play in many parks. He wasn't allowed to play on many tennis courts or swim in many swimming pools. He had to sit upstairs in a balcony when he went to the movies. He couldn't sit downstairs with the white people. And just because their skin color was dark, the King family wasn't allowed to eat in many restaurants. Martin had to go to a separate school too. But that didn't keep Martin from being a very good student. His mother taught him and his brother and sister how to read when they were very young, even before they started school. Martin loved to read. He liked to learn about new things. He was always full of questions, and he wanted to find their answers. One big question Martin kept thinking about was how people of different colors could come together and be friends. Martin liked to talk about things too, especially with his grandmother. She was his favorite person. They would talk for hours and hours on the front porch. Martin also liked to give speeches. When he was in high school, he practiced giving speeches in front of a mirror. He also learned a lot about giving speeches from his father, who was a minister. Martin had a special way with words. He could make people feel brave and proud with his speeches. He could also make people want to do wonderful things. When Martin was in high school, he studied very hard. He was such an excellent student that he graduated in only 2 years. Most people need 4 years to graduate. Then he went to college, where he decided to become a minister like his father. When he was in college, Martin studied many important ideas. He came to believe that when people are treated unfairly, they should fight back, but not with guns, or fists, or sticks, or anything else that might cause harm. The best way to fight back, he thought, was with love. In time, Martin became a doctor of theology, a person who knows a lot about religions. So he was now Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King's first job as a minister was at a church in Montgomery, Alabama. What happened next has been written about in many books. The story begins with a woman named Rosa Parks, who worked in a department store in Montgomery. One day, Rosa was very tired after work, so she decided to take a bus home. Usually, she walked because she didn't like to ride on the bus. You see, African Americans had to sit in the back. Only white people were allowed to sit in the front. That was the law in Montgomery. But Rosa, like many others, knew that the law was unfair. Not only that, if the bus were crowded, a white person could order a black person in the back to get up and give him the seat. Today, that's hard for us to understand, but that's the way it was back then. As Rosa sat on the bus that day, it became very crowded. The bus driver ordered Rosa and some others in the back to stand up and let white people take their places. But Rosa was much too tired to stand. She decided she would stay seated. So Rosa was arrested and taken to jail. They said she broke a city law, and it was the law, but it was unfair. Dr. King heard about Rosa's arrest and decided to do something about the unfair law. Nobody should ride the buses, he said, until the unfair law has been changed. Although Dr. King wanted a new fair law, he didn't want anyone to get hurt, neither black people nor white people. He wanted the law changed peacefully. It took a long time, but finally a group of judges said that the Montgomery bus law could no longer be used. From that time on, whenever African Americans got on the bus, they could sit anywhere they wanted, in Montgomery or anywhere else in America. After what happened in Montgomery, people of color began to see that they could change other unfair laws and practices by using Dr. King's method of peacefully demonstrating for change. Our nation's schools were where many people wanted to make those changes. In some places, African American children weren't allowed to go to school with white children. To make matters worse, schools that black students attended and the study materials used inside were often old and tattered. So the students in those segregated schools, as they were called, often received a poor education, not as good as what white children received. Large numbers of people, learning from Dr. King, worked to change the laws that said black children couldn't attend schools with white children. They were successful, and the laws were changed. There was something else that was unfair in those days. Some restaurants refused to serve African Americans. Turned away at the door, black college students and others sat in front of restaurants to protest and to show everyone how unjustly they were treated. They, along with Dr. King, helped create new laws that said all people must be served in restaurants, regardless of their color. Dr. King also understood that African Americans wouldn't have all their freedoms until all of them were allowed to vote. That way, they could elect officials who would make sure that the laws would be fair and would be applied equally to everyone. So he planned many demonstrations for fair voting laws. Those demonstrations were successful too, for Congress soon passed a law that said African Americans could sign up to vote and would never again be stopped from voting. Dr. King also saw the need to let all people, regardless of their color, live wherever they wanted. So he planned and marched in many demonstrations that led to what were called fair housing laws. These laws said that all people could buy or rent homes wherever they wanted. Because Dr. King was the most important leader in getting so many new laws passed and unfair laws changed, he became an American hero. And he became famous. His ideas were reported almost everywhere. In 1963, in Washington, D.C., he led one of the largest gatherings ever held to get more fair laws passed. Dr. King made one of the most famous speeches ever given during that large gathering. It was called his I Have a Dream speech. The next year, the Nobel Peace Prize, one of the world's greatest honors, was awarded to Dr. King. He received the prize because he had helped remove so many injustices, and because he did it peacefully. Now he was a hero all over the world. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. saw many injustices in his life, even when he was very young. But he didn't fight back with his fists, or guns, or with sticks or stones. Instead, he used his gift of speech, his intelligence, and the power of his ideas to change America and the world for the better. Because he did, he is considered by many to be a true American hero. True or false? People of different colors and different religions live in our country. In what city did Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. spend his childhood? When he was a child, Martin and his family, A, could eat at any restaurant but couldn't sit downstairs in movies. B, couldn't eat in many restaurants, nor play in many parks, nor swim in many swimming pools, nor play on many tennis courts. C, could go anywhere they wanted. Who was Martin's favorite person when he was a child? What was Martin's special gift? What event made Dr. King famous? True or false? Dr. King said that African Americans should never vote. Dr. King helped African Americans, A, to vote, eat in any restaurant, go to school with white people, B, sit anywhere on buses, live wherever they wanted, C, both A and B. What award did Dr. King receive in 1964? African American college students, A, threw away food to prevent restaurants from serving white people. B, sat on sidewalks in front of restaurants to show everyone they couldn't eat in those places. C, handed out flowers to everyone who went inside restaurants.